Welcome to the Odds Breakers, your number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, 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 no. Hell to the no.
Welcome back to podcast 41 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow us on Twitter at The Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / The Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code The Odds Breakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs and sponsor the podcast and the website, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click shop and become a member. For $17.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. Hell no, my friends. Hell to the no. They finally pushed the button on the Big Ten, as we all know. And the Pac-12 followed suit as well, as predicted. You know, it's very strange to me the way that this all came about, how they released a schedule to those kids, and 6 days later they officially announced that they're canceling the season. It's just so strange. It's like somebody in the university system, or a group of them, the presidents is what they're saying, came right in there with a full force, like somebody just got done yelling at them and told them to stop this thing immediately. It just feels a lot like that. I understand the fear, for sure, of a virus that we, haven't seen much of before, or at least we don't think we've seen. There's never been so much attention to something like this before, right? Never has there been so much attention to a sickness in the world, a pandemic, a virus is what they call it. Yet when you look at some of the stats, they just do not seem to add up. If you look at one of the worst hit countries in the whole world, in England, all the way up through their worst 2 months, up to June 1st, they had 0 more deaths from 45 and under, people 45 and under years old, than they did the year before. They had more deaths of people the year before, even up through their worst 2 months. As the population got older after 45 is where you see a hit of excess deaths, was really people over 65. Slightly over from 45 to 65, but it's a majority over 65. Now, that's not good. None of that is good. It's just that this happens every time there are flu pandemics throughout history. When there are bad flus, there is always excess deaths. And now they are counting them with a microscope. Okay? It's just, the reaction doesn't make sense, because you look at the fact that countries like Sweden went through their bad time, not as bad as New York, not as bad as the UK, not as bad as Spain, not as bad as Belgium. They had their time where they lost people, but they didn't quarantine at all. No mandates whatsoever, and now they are the lowest in Europe, among the lowest per case. They are doing better than Japan right now, who is just finally quit quarantining, all wearing masks. They are spiking up because they've been at home the last 6 months. None of this makes sense. And it especially doesn't make sense when, if you count the worldwide death toll of 700,000, that's not even 2% of total deaths in the entire world. More people died of diarrhea and traffic accidents. I'm sorry, it just makes zero sense to shut down college football when there's players that have had it and it has proven to not harm them. 37 Clemson players had it. All those players want to play. They had it and they're like, okay, it's had worse hangovers. Let's play. That's what they're saying. Trevor Lawrence, hashtag I want to play. It goes on video explaining why. He feels safe. You know what the worst part is? The worst part of this is that the schools are allowing kids, 15,000 to 20,000 kids, to go into their dorms where they share with a stranger in a room about 200 square feet. Bunch of them all sharing the same ventilation system indoors, rather than letting them play sports outside getting checked every few days. These players have lost that amazing medical coverage. They talk about long-term health effects like myocarditis. That's been going on since people had colds. Athletes have been getting myocarditis since they've been measuring it from the common cold. They're just testing for it more now. And then yet they blame it on myocarditis, yet they get 20 hours of intense workouts every single week. They still get to work out in the Big Ten. None of this makes sense, and the kids are completely safe, and they are safer. Don't you think they're going to go to their families more if they catch COVID, possibly spread it to somebody older that has more pre-existing conditions that would make COVID more of a hospital or terminal experience? And still, 95% of 65-year-olds and up that have COVID have no problems. It's just, this reaction makes absolutely no sense. Is there going to be outliers? Absolutely. But shutting down football is not for the safety of the kids. It's not for the safety of any fans, because you still had that big TV contract that was going to pay for it. Even though I think fans can go to the game if they're under 65, wear a mask, shirt, anything like that, whatever makes it feel better. I think that's possible. But for safety of the kids is a complete and utter lie while you take them back into the dorms, put them on classes. Pee Wee football is going on, and so is high school. What is the issue here? Obviously this is political, and this show tries to stay away from politics as much as possible. But the fact that it canceled one of the main sports that we cover made it relevant. After this episode, we're going to keep politics completely out of it, but it's not even like I agree with either side of the political parties. I am more moderate than any far direction that you can think. I agree with policies from both sides. I do lean a certain way, but in this case, it's okay to go against some of the same sides that your party is on for something that you believe is wrong. That's all it is. You don't have to feel shame for that. There is plenty of Democrats that are against abortion. There are plenty of Republicans that are for smoking weed. You don't have to think that it's either black or white on each side. So I just want to remind you that I still stress this show is not going to be about politics, but politics is one thing that did this, so I have to vent about it. The Big Ten in college football is my favorite thing. The Big Ten commissioner just came out and said if Nebraska plays, Kevin Warren is his name, first year on the job, put in a difficult spot for sure, but he also he was Jason Whitlock's agent. Jason Whitlock had some not so kind things to say about him. He's more politically motivated than anything else. Nebraska requested to try to play football this year, and he said that they can't. Why is that? You already made your statement getting rid of your liability. You already made the statement of canceling the Big Ten to get rid of your safety accountability. So then why would you have a problem if the players go out and play football? What if they find a few teams that want to play? What's wrong with that? I mean, these kids in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 got screwed over for the NFL 2021 draft. All the tape's going to be on the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, the American Athletic Conference, and I think the Sun Belt's still playing. I don't know if they'll cancel. They might. But it screws them over. Why would you care? There could only be one reason why you care. Only one reason. You already got rid of the accountability. You have these kids piling up in dorms. You're having them work out hard, so don't give me that myocarditis thing. They're working out, and that's been around since colds have been around. There's only one reason. And you're following the narrative because you're afraid to be destroyed by a media. You know, that is unfair. And that is wrong. You should have took a stand. The Big Ten commissioners failed, and so has the Big Ten presidents, as well as the Pac-12. They did not do this for your safety. Let's get into something that's going to be more beneficial to you than me complaining about losing my favorite sports. And now let's get on our main man, Cub Fan Danny, to cover a little bit of UFC 252. And now I am extremely happy to welcome back our UFC specialist, Mr. Cub Fan Danny, is back for UFC 252, Cormier versus Miocic 3. Danny, how the hell is this week treating you, my man?
Not bad. You know, I was thinking about it. I don't think anybody's having a better week than me, than Dana White. As soon as these leagues start canceling, I think he's jumping for joy because he's the only guy that we know he's going to be there every single week. He's gaining new followers. People are gambling on the sport, and it's fun.
Oh, man, I'm sure I mean, the guy can't miss a beat right now, and he's having a lot better week than me because, you know, I'm such a Big Ten fan. Yeah. I already ranted about that for a while, and another bad thing happened. I had Brian Edwards on for about an hour, and my memory card corrupted right at the end, and lost the whole interview. It doesn't happen much, and I couldn't use my backup because I had to switch rooms. My son's here homeschooling, going through that, and until, you know, they say it's safe to come back, and all of a sudden, you know, I didn't do it with a backup or anything, and everything just kind of crashed down. So that's my week, you know. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, listen, to be honest, I'm running on 11 hours of sleep, so I'm exhausted. But, you know, I'm still excited for this fight, and it's been a great week except for sleeping. And
you look tired, man. I see on Skype here. You look pretty beat down. So we don't have to keep you too long, Danny.
Thank you.
But I'll let you start, man. We have some great fights here. We'll get to the main event last. What do we have going on here? What's the first one you want to talk about?
Listen, this is going to be a fun card, right? Every week I tell you, and I'm trying to be honest with you guys. You know, if it's good or if it's bad, and there's some other. Listen, I think this is going to be a good main event, right? I mean, leading up to it might be a little bit up heads or tails, but leading up to this main event card, listen, it's worth it, guys, to buy the card. You're going to have a good time. But preliminary card, it's going to be on ESPN. Jim Miller and Vic Pichel, right? Listen. If you watch the sport, you know who Jim Miller is. Jim Miller's a fantastic fighter, right? He's got some iron balls. He fights. He'll take guys to decision. He'll submit guys. He's just a man's man. He's a fighter, right? He's always been that guy. If there's anybody that has a career in fighting, that's the only thing he can do, it's Jim Miller, okay? Vic Pichel, nice guy, right? Nothing. No, he hasn't fought the best guys. He fought Gregor Gillespie, and he got his teeth kicked in, right? So now he's really stepping up in competition against Jim Miller. So I'm looking at this fight, and I'm saying, my God, I can't go against Jim Miller, can I? And the more I look at it, the more I watch these fights, Kiev, I've been watching the fights for the past 6 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Breaking down these fights, saying, look, I like this, I don't like this. I've been watching all these guys, and I can't shy away from Jim Miller. And he's a plus 105 right now, taking him straight. I got to go with him. I have to go with Jim Miller in this fight. He's fought the best of the best. I always tell people, look who they fought. Look at the competition that they fought. Vic. We're going to call him Vic. He's not a spring chicken. He's 35, 36 years old, so he's not a young man, right? And he's just started fighting. He's not one of the best out there. So I can't foresee Jim Miller, the guy with iron balls, the guy that can submit anybody, the guy that can out-wrestle anybody, the guy that can outstrike anybody, and he's fought the best of the best, losing to Vink. I can't do it.
Vink Pichel. Pichel.
He's just an okay fighter. Listen, there's nothing crazy. You look at the guy, you watch him fight. Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
But to be a big favorite against Jim Miller, when I look at this, a minus 125 right now. No, I'm not laying that big. I'm going with Jim Miller. That's a good play if you want to get some plus money.
Yeah, well, obviously Miller's got the experience. The other guy's on his 6th, 7th, or 8th UFC fight. He did okay, but none of these names that he's beaten are big. Gregor Gillespie, he lost to. He beat Roosevelt Roberts, Joaquim Silva. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, Jim Miller, his last 2 fights, he lost to Scott Holtzman as a decision. We just saw Holtzman fight. He lost, but he fought a great fighter, right? Yeah. And then he also beat Roosevelt Roberts too pretty quickly. It's funny that you mentioned this fight because I talked to Brian Edwards today, and he also likes Jim Miller here. And Jim Miller's got the experience. He actually likes Jim Miller with a submission.
Yeah, plus 285. I was going to say that. I think that's a fantastic bet right there. You can go double it up, right? You can go a bigger play on Jim Miller winning and then a submission, half a unit. You're going to have a good night.
Yeah, two units on Jim Miller, half unit on him getting the submission here. Because if you look at his last fights, submission, then he lost that decision, right? Yep. And then before, technical submission, guillotine choke, submission, lost to a KO. Then he lost a few other ones. It's tough fighters, Poirier, Anthony Pettis, all those guys, right?
Yeah,
very
Pettis.
Tough guys. You're not going to submit them.
Charles Vera. We can keep going and going, right? And even the guys that he's beaten are just as good as the guys that he's lost to. So he's a warrior, right? So there's no way that I look at this and say Jim Miller should be a dog on this one at all.
No, I like it, man. Good call on that. So maybe we'll have to get on that. 2 units on him and a half a unit on the submission deal. Maybe even a unit. We'll see how greedy we get, right? We'll take a look at that. But liking it. So let me see what I have here. I'll pick a fight here, and this one is Merab Divanishvili versus John Dodson, my man.
Good. I'm looking at that fight too, so go ahead. We'll talk about it together.
All right, perfect. And Dodson's plus 240-ish. Divanishvili is at minus 240. And, this fight I looked at under a microscope a little bit, broke it down. You have Merab Divanishvili is 11-4, 29 years old. His wins were 2 KOs, 1 submission, and 8 decisions. 8 of them. So never been knocked out here. John Dodson, 35 years old, 6 years older, 21-11, 10 KOs, 2 submissions, and 9 decisions. Okay, so he tends to go decision at plus 170. Some of the strikes, I like how the fact that Divanishvili's lands 4 significant strikes per minute to 3.33 with John Dodson. Both are about 40% accuracy, 40-41. But this is the kicker for me. Merab takes down a lot. He gets his points that way. His average takedowns are 8.67 per 15 minutes, and Dodson is at only 0.76. Okay, Merab Dvalishvili's average fight time is 12.43, and John Dodson's is 14 minutes and 35 seconds. That's a long time, and for mostly three round fights. I'm not sure if Dodson's had any titled shots, probably not, or main events.
Dude, you're doing great. Keep going. You're doing awesome.
So here's what I love here, man. I love Dvalishvili to win this, but I think he wins by decision.
What a great call. Listen, John Dodson, about 6 years ago, 6 years ago, was a beast. The guy was a beast. A tiny man with huge hands and big knockout power. But he hasn't had that in quite a while, right? Dvalishvili is a guy that's going to wrestle you to death. He comes from a great camp out in Long Island with, I forget the name of their guys, but what a great camp, right? He's got a great camp out there, and he'll wrestle you to death. So here's a perfect guy that's going to come in and take you to the final 3 rounds and win by decision. Dodson, as much as I love the guy, he does not have the knockout power anymore. He did win his last fight in a knockout, right? But before that, Peter Yan decision, Jimmy Rivera, both big guys, right, in the weight class. Decision. His last time he won a knockout before that was 2016, besides February. He does not have that knockout power anymore, right? He's not the same guy. He's a little bit older. He's kind of hanging on now. He's kind of a guy that's a gatekeeper in this division. I think that for Dvalishvili, this is going to be a big fight for him. I really like him in a decision here. So you could take him 2 ways, straight up, at minus 240, which I wouldn't do, but I would certainly take him at a decision.
And a decision's minus 150. So it kind of tells you that's how it's going to end to me. Yeah. I mean, of course you look for decision, you look for that big plus money, but the fact that it's just pointed out at minus 150, that's not a huge investment for me to take a look at here. Yeah. More like a 60% chance of getting that decision at that number, but I think it's going to be a lot more just because all the fights that he wins seems to go to decisions. Even the ones he lost go to decision. 11-4, 3 of them went to decision, and obviously with John Dodson, 9 decisions in his wins, and the only way he's lost was decisions. He's not getting knocked out.
No, he's a very tough guy. He's very, very tough. He doesn't go down. But he does not have that knockout power he had when he first started. And he did fight for a title, and he lost to one of the best ever, Demetrius Johnson, back in 2015. And since then, it's been a road back and making a paycheck, right? So,
right.
This is a guy that he beat DJ Dillashaw, right? In the Ultimate Fighter, he beat him. He beat Tim Elliott, Jussier Formiga. He fought a bunch of great guys, but again, it's been a long time, and just is what he is.
The man has paid his dues. Well, let's do it, my man. We'll put 3 stars on that. I'm feeling good about that one.
There you go.
Let's move on to the next one, buddy. What do you have?
So we got Junior Dos Santos and Jorginho Rosenstruck.
Loving that one.
It's going to be a fun fight, right? It's going to be a guy. They're just going to throw punches. It's going to be really, really fun, right? So, listen, I'll be the first one to tell you, last fight he fought Jorginho, and I took him mainly because he had some numbers with him, but he got knocked out against Francis Ngannou pretty quick, right? And listen, it's Francis Ngannou. That's what's called gambling, right? You're taking a shot, right? Yeah. And anything can happen. But look, Junior Dos Santos, one of my favorite fighters of all time. I look at this guy and I absolutely love the guy. I have so much respect for him. He's just one of those guys that you look there and say, man, what a role model for kids to look at him. He's been a great guy, great champion at a couple years back. Now he looks like he's got a dad bod, and he's been getting knocked out quite a bit. Okay, what that's telling me is, right, he's lost against Francis Ngannou and then Curtis Blades, both with knockouts. Not cheap knockouts, but they took him out. And Francis Ngannou is nobody to mess around with, right? So now he's falling at the end of his career, Junior. He's a guy that wants to throw punches. He's been getting knocked out a lot. And Jorginho, yeah, he got knocked down the first 20 seconds against Francis. That stuff happens, especially against Francis, okay? It's not like he took a beating against him. He took a major knockout against him. So I'm looking at this and saying, want to know what? I have to go with Jorginho. I have to. As much as I love him, I'm going to go with Jorginho. At minus 135, it's not that big of an investment. You're not going to get that big of odds with Junior Dos Santos at plus 115. I have to go with the guy that's much younger. I have to go with the guy that's got big hands and big fists that can knock somebody out. And look, let's be honest. Junior lost his last 2 fights via knockout. That's not good.
Oh, yeah.
So when I'm looking at this, I'm taking Jorginho 100%. I don't even mind laying that big at minus 135.
You know, you're right on tap with kind of what I was thinking a little bit, and what Brian Edwards said as well. He that is exactly the pick he had, and both. Look at these fighters. Like you said, you're completely correct about Junior Dos Santos. Been there a long time, great guy to look up to, right? Both of these guys did get beat by Francis Ngannou, but Francis Ngannou is the third best heavyweight.
Listen, I'm going to tell you he's the best heavyweight.
Okay,
right?
there you go.
That's my opinion, and that's everybody else's opinion. But go ahead.
Well, he's not fighting the title fight tonight, or Saturday night. So yeah, you can easily argue. Well, he's going to be after he wins this fight, But 9 KOs, 0 submissions, 1 decision for Jorginho, and Junior Dos Santos, 15 KOs, 1 submission, 5 decisions. The only way that Jorginho lost was to Ngannou. Just got caught in the first. He got caught, right? And
block. Yeah, he basically threw a brick at his head and knocked him out. Yeah.
Yeah, bad loss. And that was a bad loss for 20 seconds. I'm sure he's pissed about it. He wants to come back. Sure. But Dos Santos been there a long time, has all that experience. My question to you about this is: do you think it's going to go the distance? Is there a shot? It's minus 300 that it doesn't. This says knockout all over it, but
I just can't. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Right. And Rosenstruck is not a guy that wants to go to decision, right? He had one shot of getting to a decision, but it was against a guy that knew how to wrestle a little bit, right? Against Alistair Overeem. And then Alistair Overeem got knocked out at the very end with 4 seconds left, and his lip was blown up with one punch, right?
Oh, that's right. Wasn't Overeem kind of winning a little bit on that one?
Overeem was gonna out-wrestle him, right? This whole fight. He out-wrestled him the whole fight. He had this fight in his hand. And all of a sudden his face blew up. And he needed stitches from his lip to his forehead from one punch.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I remember that. And Dos Santos can wrestle. He can.
But every time you watch him, he's got his right hand cocked, ready to go for that knockout. He's not the same guy. He's not the same guy with a 6-pack. He's the guy with a dad bod walking into the ring, and you're saying, Tio, go home. No more here. No more. Go home. Right? Stop fighting already. So that's the way I look at him. I look at him like, you got to stop. You got to go home. No more fighting already. And because especially with Rosenstruck, he's got some knockout power. Look, KO, Andrei Arlovski fight. I watched that and I compared him to Dos Anjos. He just destroyed him. Right? So Junior Albini, he's beaten a lot of good guys and just knocked them out. First round. So when I look at it, I have to go with Rosenstruck this fight. The odds are sitting right there for me. Even, look, at minus 135, I'm thinking the guy's going to win it by a knockout. You want to take him inside the distance to minus 108, or you take him by a knockout, which I don't think he's going to submit anybody, but you knock him out, he's a minus 105. So if you want to make your odds a little bit better, closer to even, you take him with a knockout at minus 105.
Yeah, minus 105. It's a slight upgrade there, but that's the only way it's going to happen, most likely. Minus 135 to minus 105. It's so small that I might just go with. I don't mind paying a little juice either.
And that's fine. And nobody's gonna fault you for doing that, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's just
rounds.
how pissed would you be if Junior Dos Santos just knows that he can't get hit and he just stays on leaning into the cage, hugging him. He gets on the ground, bear hugs him on the ground. It's just one of those fights, you know.
It can happen.
That can happen. So I don't mind laying the extra juice. So that's probably the way I'm going to take a look at it, buddy.
Perfect.
All right. Well, great fight, man. Great job breaking that down here. So the next one that I want to look at here, and this is really interesting because I don't know if you guys have a 5 Dimes account, but it's kind of funny. They kind of screwed up a little bit with the odds on this. And you got to love it when you catch those times. Looking at Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda.
Okay.
So so you look at these two fighters, right? Burns, he's 11-2, 32 years old, 1 KO, 8 submissions. That's a lot of submissions and 2 decisions. The only way he's lost was by decisions. Nice 11-2, Herbert Burns. And then you have Daniel Pineda, 26-13. He's 35 years old. I would expect Burns to be a little bit younger. Actually, I thought he was until I took a look at it. He just kind of came in a little bit late, right? Pineda, both of these fighters, the under 1.5 rounds hit 4 times with Burns. The last 4 fights with Burns, and the under 1.5 rounds hit the last 6 fights with Pineda. Okay? So, right away I'm looking here. I'm like, this is just screaming to go under, but, only 1 KO for Burns. He tries to submit. He tries to submit. Burns by KO is plus 650. But then at the same time, I look at Pineda and I'm like, this guy, 18 submissions, 18 of them, only 8 KOs. This guy's been around a while. He kind of knows a little bit about staying out of submissions. Now, the weird thing about this guy is he's been all over the place. He was in the UFC back in 2013 and 2014, right? 2012, and then he stopped, went to the Bellator and a couple other places, right? Fury.
Yeah.
And then had a couple weird overturned fights. His last 2 fights, they were overturned. I only watch UFC. I don't really watch the other organizations. I don't know how much you do.
It's very difficult to find them, but go ahead.
Yeah, it is. It is very difficult to find them. But what I think here is that I'm not going to take the submission. I just there's no value there. I mean, the submission for Herbert, and give me a second here, looking by it, is minus, 1 second here.
Inside the distance is minus
165. Minus 160. Sorry, it took so long. Minus 165 for Burns to win by submissions, and just for Burns to win normal is minus 280, right?
Right.
So I like Herbert Burns maybe for another thing. I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to win. But I would rather do this. Take a small shot, really small shot with the TKO KO. And it's plus 650. And I'm talking like a quarter unit or a half unit. My lean would be to the under, though, unfortunately, 1.5 rounds, just because of the history, the last 4 and the last 6. Have you got to look at these guys at all?
No, and thank you for telling me that, because now I'm going to start looking at it quite a bit, right? So I don't have a play on either one of them, but I think I do now.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Sign yourself right up. Good stuff, man. What do we have next?
Sean O'Malley? Right?
I knew you'd be talking about Sean O'Malley. Why did I know that Cub Fan Danny was going to talk about Sean O'Malley?
Probably because the guy fights out of my home state of Arizona here in Phoenix, right? Listen, what do I tell you every single time that it's on my bio? Don't buy into the hype. Here's a guy that don't buy into the hype, right? And I think Dana White and UFC is doing the right thing with this kid. He's knocking everybody out, Kiev. Mm-hmm. He's knocking them out, right? At 135 pounds, at 5'11", he is knocking people out, which has been so fun to do. But is he knocking out me and you, right? And we're not at 135. So he's not fighting anybody great. But listen, the UFC's doing the right thing. They're not throwing him up against the top competition at all whatsoever. So does this number at minus 290, right? Yes. Here's what I want people to look at. Am I going to put a play on this? I'm not going to do it, right? I can't lay minus 290, guys. Anything could happen. Here's what I want to do. I want you guys to watch this fight, make a decision, and then let's see his next fight. Let's see who he is fighting. Because if he is fighting top competition and he looked okay, and they're going to give him another minus 200, 250, minus 300, I think the next fight might be the play that we take the guy that is the dog, right? I don't think it's this fight here. I think it's the next fight that we're taking the dog against O'Malley. He's just going to be a fun guy to watch this time because, listen, Marlon Vera, he's just a nice guy. He's nothing great about the guy. I can't lay anything with Sean O'Malley just because I know what's going to happen, right? For me, if I'm going to do anything, it's going to be a knockout with him because he's got such great knockout power, right? Especially at 135. He's probably got the best knockout power at 135, but he hasn't fought anybody. The competition's going to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Let's see who's next fight, who he's fighting. Then, when he's the big favorite, that's when we're going to go in and sneak in and take those underdog picks and make a little bit of money.
Well, that we've been living off that, man. the last few weeks, you know, just kind of when the hype comes in is where you start to fade, and you know, we found ourselves a couple sweet spots there. So.
I tell people not to do it, and I screw up myself. Listen, I fall prey to it. Listen, if you're going to take anything, O'Malley wins by TKO at plus 155. That would be my only play. Do I feel 100% confident with it, guys? Not at all, right? But that's going to be my play if I do anything. I can't lay minus 290, and then by fight time comes, it's going to be over minus 3. You can't do it.
Well, you know, according to Brian, Yadong Song, the one that just beat Vera, they said that was a bad decision. They said that Vera should have won that one. And then if you look at the 5 fights before that, Vera won all 5 of those fights. You know?
Against who?
Yeah, I know. Andre Ewell, Hernandez, Frankie Saez.
I was just watching that last Vera fight before we came on here, and you want to know what? He didn't overwhelm me, right? Tell me who Frankie Saez is or Guido Cantanelli is. You can't tell me who. You can't see. You couldn't tell me if they told you had their name tag on them. Okay? So I don't care what Brian says on this. He hasn't fought anybody, right? And the same thing with O'Malley. So I'm just saying I think it's a little bit too early for O'Malley and a little bit too early for those numbers. What I'm saying is he's going to win the fight. Let's see what happens next fight when he moves up in competition and the hype train is on him. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to take the next fight.
Okay. And, you know, O'Malley 12-0, 8 KOs, 1 submission, 3 decisions. Vera, 5 KOs, 8 submissions, 2 decisions. Significant strikes. O'Malley's a beast at 6.86 landed per minute. That's amazing to 3.7 for Marlon. And Marlon's got a little bit better of an accuracy there, though. 11 minutes and 5 seconds is his average fight time. 6 minutes for O'Malley. So Brian liked O'Malley with the KO here, and
that's the only play.
I can't disagree with that. But at the same time, before I got to talk to either of you, I wrote lean on Marlon Vera at plus 260 because it was just one of those things. I'm like, who the hell is O'Malley? O'Malley's going to come in. He according to Brian, he colored his hair the color of Marlon's flag. Okay, it looks like an absolute goofball right now, all colored hair right now. And so if I'm Marlon, I'm probably pissed off, you know, that he did that, you know.
This cat hasn't fought in 2 years, right? And because he broke his foot. So this year he's already fought twice. Now we're in a pandemic, okay? Kiev, we're in a pandemic. He's fought March 7th, KO. He fought June 6th, KO. Okay? Now he's fighting in August. In a pandemic where nobody's fighting, this guy's fighting every single time that he has availability. I'm telling you, he's going to be fun to watch. I'm telling you, this fight it's a easy win for him, which is why the numbers are facing at minus 300. Right? I was watching the Eddie Wineland fight against him, right? And my daughter walks in, and she likes to watch a little bit of UFC with Daddy once in a while when they're not doing girly stuff. And I said, she looks at him and she goes, he's got colored hair. And I go, yeah, he looks like Bozo. Bang, knockout. And she goes, oh my goodness. And she walked out. And I go, come here, watch it again. Come here, watch it again. We watch it 3 more times. What a knockout. The guy's got fists like cinder blocks at 135, which we don't see very often. That's why he's super fun. That's why he's a guy we want to watch out for. But again, he hasn't fought the best of the best. And at 135, can he dominate? Probably. But he still hasn't fought the best of the best. That's why Dana White and the team at UFC is doing a great job with him and not throwing him out to the wolves because he's knocking people out. Let him build himself up a little bit. And it's good for us because we're going to make some money off the guy when he's a favorite when he shouldn't be.
Well, there you go, man. There you go. So maybe we're going to stay away from this one then. I don't know. I think maybe if you – how about this? When's the fight? Is this fight second or third to last here?
It is
it's a co-main event, right? So why don't you make a decision? If you're up a little bit, throw a few bucks on O'Malley because you want to see a nice knockout, right? Definitely nothing in the premium department there, and we'll see what happens there. That could be fun. If you're down, just enjoy the fight and remember to fade Sean O'Malley when he actually fights somebody that has a pulse.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when it starts coming up.
All right, man. Well, that leaves the main event, Danny. The big show here, part 3, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. We've watched these guys fight many times. They both are 1-1. Oh, man. Why don't you? I'm going to let you have the floor with this one.
Wow, this is going to be a fun fight. So, listen, my original thought in my head was it's got to be Stipe, right? The first fight, Cormier knocks him out real quick. That was a mistake. Stipe comes and wins this fight, and I'm thinking to myself, it's got to be Stipe. So what I always like to do is I like to sit back and watch these fights and see really what happened. My God, Kiev, I don't know. Listen, Daniel Cormier, I love this guy. He should have been a heavyweight a long time ago, and there's reasons why he wasn't a heavyweight. He was undefeated when he was at Strikeforce as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
His body is a heavyweight. His problem is he's like me, where he has one Twinkie and it counts as 8 Twinkies because he just gets chubby out of nowhere, right? My other problem here with him is he's over 40 years old, okay? 41 years old. He's taken some beatings in his time. But I watched these fights, and he dominated Stipe. Stipe, it was the craziest thing because this guy's a Golden Gloves champion, and he had trouble fighting Cormier. He had difficulty throwing punches against him. I watched Cormier, and I right away thought of my dad, right? So I've heard many stories about my dad's passed away 22 years ago, but I've heard many stories about my dad growing up and being a fighter, right? And I go, nah, I don't believe it. So then people started coming up to me years after my dad passed away and started telling me stories about the guy. So I started watching this fight. I called my uncle. I said, hey, Tio, can you watch this fight a little bit? Who does this remind you of? And he goes, immediately he thought of my dad, right? Short guy, great hands, tough as nails, right? And I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, maybe I do like Cormier. So I'm watching a little bit more, and I go, you want to know what? I got to go with Stipe. I think Stipe figured him out by the time that last round hit. Dominated the first fight. He lost the first 3 rounds. I think that Stipe has got this fight, and here's where I'm looking at, right? Right now is at minus 105. Okay? That fight started at, let me go back here. That fight started at even, right? They were even, that fight. This fight coming up here. The money's coming in on DC, Daniel Cormier. I don't know if the legacy portion of it, and this is Daniel Cormier's last fight, coming into it, wanting to win this fight, is going to overcome the fact that obviously Stipe is a lot younger than him, and Stipe, I believe, figured him out and start boxing him and actually do a great job in terms of keeping the distance, right? So the problem with Stipe is Cormier came in and just dominated him on the inside and dominated him over and over again, and Stipe didn't know what to do. Not until the 4th round of this last fight where he actually figured it out and started boxing him, hitting the body, which he should have done a lot earlier, and taking him out and knocking him out in that 4th round. So to me, this play is going to be Stipe 100%, okay, that he's going to win this fight. And you could even play around with what's going to happen in this fight. I see this fight probably going to the 3rd round. So fight's going to start the 3rd round, right? Minus 185. You can play with that a little bit, but I believe it's going to probably end in the 3rd round. And I think Stipe is going to win here by a TKO knockout, and you're going to get plus money out here, plus 170.
Wow, man. Are you reading my notes? I got to tell you, I saw Daniel Cormier's interview last week with Paul, and he was very motivated to get the belt back, right? Very motivated to get his title back. I remember watching that fight with you in 2017 when that John Jones came in and, elbowed the hell out of him, took him out. I'm pretty sure he cut weight for that fight, right? Wasn't that 205 or was that heavyweight?
Yeah, that's a 205 fight. Yeah,
yeah, and that hurt him a bit. He's better eating Twinkies. Okay, like you mentioned.
That's why I like him. Look, we've got the same body type, same height, same weight.
There you go.
Color, but everything else is the same.
Stipe, 37 years old, not a young buck, and Cormier, 41 years old. You'd be crazy to think this is for the heavyweight title right now, but these guys are a lot tougher than they look. Stipe is 19-3, and Cormier is 22-2 because of that John Jones steroid thing that happened. As a matter of fact, his own Cormier's only losses was against John Jones, and then until he fought and beat Stipe, and then he lost to Stipe a year later. It's funny. Yeah. This is almost exactly a year later from their last fight, and I think that neither of them has fought since then. If I'm not 100% sure on that. They're both of their last fights were against each other.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because of COVID and there's probably
negotiations and money and all that stuff, right? Cormier, DC. When we say DC, we're talking Daniel Cormier. DC wanted big money. It's his last fight's coming up. He was supposed to retire a long time ago, right? He's got a good job being a commentator. He's got a good job having his own gym. He doesn't need to fight anymore.
Right. He doesn't.
He's got a big heart, though, right?
I'm surprised he hasn't fought in Derrick Henry either, because Cormier has recently, and Cormier beat Henry. I'm sorry, Derek Lewis. I don't know why I say Derrick Henry football, but Derek Lewis.
Thinking in my head, what are you talking about? Yeah, because Derek Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, Derek Lewis. And, and Derek Lewis is a big beast. He's a big boy and stuff. But, these fighters are just better at fighting. Both of them are. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not super confident that Stipe is going to win, but I think at even money or minus 105, I think that you got to play it. I think that's what you got, the youth there, and that it's not going to go to. It's not going 5 rounds. It's not going to go the distance. No. Stipe has never been submitted either, so I'm not as worried about Cormier's fighting. But Cormier had that last fight until he got up, and then he should have stayed on the ground. And I think Cormier might know that, but Stipe knows that he knows that too. It's like Cormier is going to try to wrestle him a little bit more. Stipe is going to be ready for it. This should be, in my opinion, Cormier's last fight. I think he should retire after this personally. But then you have guys that have 73 fights, like we talked about last week. With Alexei Olenek. But who knows? Stipe lands 4.95 significant strikes per minute to Cormier's 4.25. Obviously, Cormier's better at taking down 49%, 44% to 37%.
Cormier is a top wrestler in the UFC, and even Joe Rogan has said that wrestling is the most important thing in the UFC above anything else, above jiu-jitsu, above judo, above boxing. Wrestling is the most important thing. So if the only way Cormier is going to win this fight, it's got to be early. Right? Yeah. He's going to have to wear him out early, first, second round. It's going to go after that. And they're standing, Kiev. It's going to be a problem for Cormier.
Yeah. And so, but what I wrote down here is I do agree with that Stipe, just because of, he's got the youth. He's got experience now. He's fought Cormier. He should be able to get out of the same holds that Cormier has put him on before. You know, I think Stipe is going to win this fight. Stipe has a big 7.5-inch reach on Cormier. He could use that to his advantage. He knows how to get to the cage if he's getting taken down. He knows that, you know. I like Stipe, and I like him minus 105, but I think you also take him in the distance at plus 175, and I think you also take him to KO at plus 185. I like it all. I think you do it all. Do a little bit more on him at minus 105, then do half on the inside the distance, half on KO, bang, bang, bang. You can win it all, right?
Yeah, I like it. Listen, here's Stipe's wins, right? Mark Hunt, Arlovsky, Verdum, Overeem, Santos, Ngannou, which was a terrible fight. And then he loses against Cormier, and then he beats Cormier, right? So he's got some massive experience, right?
Massive.
Yeah. Listen, DC has technically lost 2 fights against John Jones, all right? One was a no decision. The other one was a loss. You know, listen, I thought that DC won the fight, but who am I? I'm not a judge, right? So, but DC has won the best of the best in that 205 division. When it comes to the heavyweight division, he hasn't fought against guys like Stipe, except for Stipe, right? I think Stipe's got this. He's figured it out. He's got to work the body. He's got to work the body. He's got to work the body. And I think that's going to ultimately be DC's fault.
All right, well, we'll take Stipe this fight, and when he fights Ngannou, we'll take Ngannou. How about that?
That's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Danny, so much, my man. Great breakdowns. I know you're tired as hell. Hopefully you get some sleep tonight, and try to sleep in a little bit. Don't be waking up at 3 a.m. again unless you're making a bed. All right.
You got it, my man. Thank you so much, brother.
All right, that was Cub Fan Danny back to break down UFC 252. Can't wait to get these fights. Everybody have a great rest of your week. If you have any questions, please feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Remember, also, go get some winners.
Do it.